Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another United Partners for Human Services workshop. My name is Justin Fitzpatrick, and I serve as the Membership and Communications Manager here at United Partners for Human Services. And I'm joined by our entire team, starting with our Executive Director, Amber Artinen, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, LaShawn Gordon, and our Admin Coordinator, Jamie Lynn Carter. This morning's presentation is sure to be a treat for us all as it focuses on the topic of succession planning. And we are joined by Krista Campbell, the partner for leadership development at Capstone Coaching and Consulting. And this wonderful presentation will give you options that assess selection and potential for creating pathways that utilize tools, people, and processes to assist in evaluating and developing your successors. So without further ado, I will hand off the microphone and our presentation deck to wonderful Krista Campbell, who is joining us today.
Thank you, Justin. All right, let me get my screen up and running here. All right. Are we all set? Oops, hold on. There we go. Justin, can you just confirm we're all set with how you can see the slides and everything?
Yes, ma'am, we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, UPHS, for having me. So many wonderful people in this organization. I'm thrilled to be here this morning to talk about succession planning. I have a tendency to run over on some of my presentations because I'm so passionate about what I do at Capstone and with Capstone and our community. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So when we talk about succession planning, I really want you to think about this quote. He who fails to plan is planning to fail. That is a tough one to swallow, but it is so true, especially in regards to succession planning, how we run our teams, how we run our organizations, and honestly, how we manage ourselves, right? And so what we're going to do today, and one of the biggest things that I want you to leave with is thinking about yourselves, right? Look in the mirror. Am I planning to fail, or are you taking the time to plan for so many things that we're going to talk to today? And we'll come back to this. All right. So really quickly, I'm not going to give you a boring history about me and how I got here. But I just wanted to highlight why I started Capstone. So I am located in Tallahassee. I'm a military brat. I've been here for probably 25 years combined, to come to college here twice. And I've really had a lot of fun working and leading in some Tallahassee businesses. This is one of my teams on the screen. And I think one of the things that really took me to VP and COO levels locally is just my ability to think largely in terms of organizations and getting things done. And most importantly, surrounding myself with people that take me to the next level, right? That complement my weaknesses. And that's really key to that self-awareness. And also, as a leader, as an individual, especially as a parent, it's always about what lesson did I just learn? And so I just want you to think about that, right? So when I've tripped, or when I see something trip, or when I'm talking with my new clients, I'm like, okay, don't look back, except understand what lessons did I learn. And that's so important with succession planning. I started Capstone about a year ago. I left the corporate world after 25 years. And what I'm doing now is just pursuing my passion to help leaders expand professional growth. I'm doing some coaching and strategic planning for Tallahassee companies and individuals, and I'm really having fun. So I'm in a great spot to pursue my passion and spend a little bit more time with my kids before they grow up and graduate from high school. So that is me. Okay, so let's talk about succession planning. Why is it so important? And I forgot to say, and I don't think Justin said it, we're going to take questions at the end. So put them in the chat. We'll come back to them at the end. So just in case you're worried about forgetting it, just drop it in there and we'll come back to you at the end. So we'll just consolidate those for you. All right. So succession planning, why? Okay. Why? The first thing is it strengthens your organization. It really does. Giving your employees more opportunity, more responsibility within your organization, takes some of the pressure off of you, but also allows some horizontal growth and upper mobility. And it really just gives a lot more strength to the people around you. If you are a leader of your department, and you continue to build people up by giving them additional responsibilities, the strength on your team is a lot more broad. And it will give you the ability to scale and respond to different situations. And being transparent about sharing your knowledge and sharing and delegating some of the opportunities there only makes the foundation of you, your department, your organization stronger to build upon. It also maximizes your potential, right? So let's just say you own your own business or you're leading your own department or you're a CEO or you're in a spot. If you set your employees up for succession planning, it also maximizes your potential to move forward, right? What if a huge promotion opportunity comes up and you haven't trained anyone or set anyone else up for success to move into your role? There's a potential for, if a what if opportunity comes, you can't move up and maximize your own potential. So it also, when you have succession plans, it also shows everyone around you. It demonstrates your leadership skills, right? So it shows others that you are in a position that are leading your employees, that are delegating, that are providing professional development to allow them to move up. And those responsibilities and those actions can have an impact on your potential growth as well. It drives employee engagement. 2023, 2024, employee engagement is a huge topic of mine that I like to discuss. It is an employees market right now. It's still hard to hire. It's easy to move if employees aren't happy. And so I just want you to think about that. And we'll talk about this. I'm going to expand on this on the next slide. But what you want to do is ensure that you are connecting with your employees and they are connecting with you. And so we'll come back to this in just a second. Succession planning also avoids disruption and confusion. Lack of clarity, lack of understanding of organizational structure, lack of understanding the organizational charts or responsibilities has a large impact on organizations and employees, and actually drives the previous bullet of employee engagement. And so if you do succession plan, and even if you don't have one person identified to take your role or take leadership of your company, if there is a solid foundation of understanding who has the subject matter expertise of different responsibilities underneath you, then you've got a fail safe in the case of you're out, right? So it's not just, again, about identifying one person. It may even be taking your key responsibilities, dividing them into buckets or subject expertise, and allowing different people to actually have opportunities to grow in different ways, right? So by having additional people on your team that have expertise that you have as well can help with anything that comes up with that's disruptive or employee confusion. In terms of structure, also longevity, right? That's a big one. And a lot of times we're blind to that as leaders of businesses. We don't necessarily see the fact that our employees are a little bit concerned about what happens if this owner leaves or this CEO leaves or this department chair leaves. And so sometimes if there's any confusion, and a lot of it's speculated, which goes to communication, employees will get uncomfortable and may start looking for other jobs. So you just got to keep that in mind. Readies you for the unexpected. What I want to say to this is this is not about confusion and disruption. This is the truly unexpected. Right? Like I got laid off after 9/11. I was working in the technology industry. For several years, I was working in the panhandle of Florida, and we had some significant hurricanes that block access to our resorts. And we had to lay off 120 people because we couldn't even access the properties. COVID came. I was actually managing a technology department. And was I ready to send people home with laptops who traditionally had desktops? Like all these things you have to prepare. There's so many things we cannot expect, but also illness, right? On a personal level, my husband got sick last year and was on the couch for a month. Was he prepared to be on the couch? Was his team? We just don't know what's going to happen. And it's better and it's a lot easier to lead when you're ready for the unexpected. And so you just got to think about that, preparing people for, stuff to happen, right? Life events. And then the last one, it prepares you for growth and retirement. I know some people who are ready to retire. I know some owners of businesses who may be ready to retire, I know some key members of organizations that are ready to retire. But guess what? They can't right now because they haven't focused enough on succession planning and transition out, right? And so you just got to think about that. You got to think about it not the year before, but if you're in a key role, you got to really think, and this is leadership, which is what I'm passionate about. You're constantly should be trying to develop people underneath you, and think about your own succession, but also when you're ready, your growth out or your next step into retirement. It also, if you're in a key role and you want to take a vacation, and listen, I've been there, I've vacationed so many times. I've been sick, recovering from surgeries with my laptop. And I got to tell you, that's one of the things that I'm trying to learn now is balance. And it is so important now for our mental health to be able to check out for a little bit or take the time that we need for personal rejuvenation, and allowing these small opportunities for people to make a step up is huge for you and huge for them. So you just got to think about it also, not just for long-term succession planning, but even for small stints of letting someone else take the reins of what you do so you can check out or have the ability to unexpectedly check out for a little bit. All right. So since we got through the why, I told you I wanted to come back to engagement. Again, this is near and dear to my heart because I think it's such a key part of management and leadership. And this is a survey from Gallup, and it talks about how engagement has been declining since 2001. And I know, that was pre-pandemic, and now we're like coming out of it, thankfully. But still, I don't like to use COVID as an excuse anymore, right? So I like to talk about engagement, and this has such a big impact on succession planning, because look at these top 4 bullets, right? The reason that engagements decline the most is because expectations were not clear. The connection to the mission or the purpose of the company was not clear or shared. Opportunities to learn and grow were not there. And the opportunities to do what employees do best were not necessarily there. When I'm talking to my clients, I talk about maximizing your employees' strengths. If you have employees that are dedicated, that show up to work, that are reliable and dependable, maybe there's a 25% of their job that they're not good at, but 75% there's a rock star, then look at those strengths and say, can I modify some job descriptions to really let this person thrive, right? And make sure that you're thinking about, especially as you're planning for succession, am I engaging my employees? Because if you're not, and you're investing in them, and you're not giving them all the motivational tools that they need, even though you think that they're your succession plan, they might be looking for another job, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's think of succession planning as an investment. We have to think of it as an investment, right? It's just like putting money in our 401k or an IRA or our house or anything else that's on the screen, right? It's an investment in ourselves, and an investment in others. And when we invest in others, we're actually investing in ourselves in succession planning, right? You're building other people up. You're preparing yourself to be able to take the next step, right? A lot of times, I think it's really hard to think about, am I taking enough time to train my employees for their growth and potential succession, rather than just dealing with day-to-day stuff? It's hard. But as managers and leaders and as in key roles, we have to find the time to train. And I really feel like when you take the time to train and you invest in others, that's when you can start to delegate a little bit better and then start working more as a leader. So you have to take the time up front to be able to invest in yourself for succession planning. Okay, let's go through common mistakes. So I've seen this happen so many times, right? With key individuals or key teams, you have one person who has knowledge. We don't take the time to document and process or share enough, and so that is absolutely a mistake. And then all of a sudden you're ready to move on, but no one else has all this knowledge that you have in your position. So that's mistake number 1. A lot of times, I think this is hard, we're running too lean, right? We're a single source of failure if we're running too lean and we're not making the time in our organizational structure to add in training and professional development for ourselves and our team. Processes, procedures, and contacts are not documented. And so again, just think about taking the time and effort to write those things down, take a better look at them. They don't have to be reams of paper, but at least starting points for processes and procedures. Contacts a lot of times aren't documented and shared within organizations, and then you have an unexpected event and someone's out mistakenly, anything can happen, and all of a sudden you don't know who to call to get support on your main piece of software, or you don't know the passwords, right? Contracts are not up to date. This is a huge, and again, this could come into processes and those contracts, if they're not up to date, it's not going to help you move on. All these things take time and effort to make sure that are done. But again, you want to set yourself up to move forward. And then by doing that, you're setting other people up for professional development also. Security and system accesses are not documented and shared. I can't tell you how many times I was notified after I left a couple of my jobs because my name was on the emergency contact list. And I'm like, I don't work there anymore. You need to, call somebody else. I'm so sorry. Or like links, login links to payroll systems, security systems, CRM systems, all these things. Like how do you get in who are the contacts, where are the links, and how do I access these things and have them in a spot where people can find them. Also lack of training and cross training. Again, if you go back to systems, if you have someone who does payroll for all 100 of your employees and no backup, then you might want to think about identifying someone to train into payroll systems. So again, you don't have one point of failure, and or cross train in different departments, depending how large you are, really kind of share that knowledge. It provides people growth. And again, that goes back to engagement, because people typically want to learn. They want to know more. Lack of professional development. It makes me a bit sad to think how easily budget lines get cut for professional development of employees. This is such a key role, and one of the pain points that I have, and one of the reasons I started Capstone, and one of the reasons I set my tagline is your partner in leadership development, is I feel like we, as managers, leaders, we often make the mistake of taking a really great employee and what they do, and we put them into a management role, and then we think they're going to be successful. And those are really different skills. And again, we don't always have the time. So are you taking the time to give the person you're promoting the tools and training needed to be successful in their new role? And again, just because you're a great nurse and you've been a rock star nurse for 10 years doesn't mean you're going to be a great nurse manager. Those are different skills, and we have to support professional development. And that is a key part of succession planning. Ignore other key roles. So a lot of times when we think of succession planning, we think about leaders, right? We think about CEOs or executive directors or managers of departments. But what about, I just mentioned payroll. What about your systems administrator? There's other key roles that we need to think about for succession planning also. How am I going to move on if this person wins the lottery and just decides to leave immediately, right? Or gets hit by a bus or is out for a month or whatever. So you got to keep in mind, succession planning is not just for leaders, it's also for other key roles that would have a significant impact if that person was just not in their seat tomorrow. And then my last one, which I bolded, is failure to let go. We have to let go to be able to think forward. We have to trust in our employees to be able to delegate and give responsibility. If you don't do that, it's going to be really hard to move on and do whatever you want to do next. Okay, so let's go into steps to consider when planning. Okay, what I want to start with at the first time is like, even before you have someone identified, if you are interviewing or hiring for key positions, or even, new positions, just new employees, if you are in a position where you are thinking about succession planning and setting people up for success, or you have a department manager that you want to help grow, but they have an open position, when you're hiring, think more than what you're just hiring for. In addition to the skills that you're hiring for, also consider asking the applicants, what are your short and long-term plans, right? So you can ask that. And what I like to do is ask those two questions. So what are your where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Because sometimes people will give you the answers to those questions that you can't specifically ask. Like, for instance, I could say, well, I'm going to move in a year and go to Texas because my boyfriend lives out there, or I'm going to retire in 2 years. I mean, there's things people will tell you, but they will also tell you, well, I really want to stay in Tallahassee. I just graduated from college and I want to build my family here. And I'd like to work for an organization that allows me to grow. So there's all kinds of things that people can respond to give you valuable information to think about as you're hiring. Something else I really like to look at is how long someone has worked for the same employer. And this isn't a make or break, but I have a family member who worked at Publix, through high school and college. And he only worked there 1 day a week, but he worked there for 6 years. He kept the same job for 6 years. It doesn't matter that he only worked Tuesday afternoon. To me, that meant this person kept a job for 6 years. That is amazing. That shows personal characteristics that have allowed him to that's shown that he's dependable, reliable, and stayed employed for that long. Also look for, and sometimes you can hear this in the short and long-term plans, but what is their motivation for professional growth, right? What do they state it? Are they just looking to get a paycheck, right? Also look at stuff, ask them, like, what have you done on your own to, train and guide you to get you where you are, where you want to be, right? Some people ask, what magazines do you read, or what internet sites do you read? There's a ton of LinkedIn learning. Just look for some of these things. And then personal professional references. And I think I failed to tell you, I was in HR focused for 8 years. That was my first career. And so this is near and dear to my heart. And references are really hard right now because of, HR reasons. But you can ask some questions that really give some indication, and hopefully you can find someone about someone's character and determination, even if it's someone that they babysat for, as they were going through high school. Like, if I had someone work for me, I love to give references because I'm like, this person, I depended on them. I let my children stay with them. I trusted them so much. I let them drive. I wrote a reference once for someone that I knew personally, but not professionally. And I just said, I was just like, I can't speak for her professional acumen, but I can speak for, I would trust her with my kids, my house, my car. Like, she's dependable. All these things that show characteristics outside of just the skills that you're hiring for. So that's one thing I want you guys to think about is, and you got to think long term. Don't just think today or in a year. You got to think, is this person capable of growing with me even outside of year 1, 2, or 3? Okay, so let's think about internally. Who do we have working with us now? One thing that I love to do is called stay interviews. And I have some great articles on those. If you want them, shoot me an email after this and I'll send you some information. But essentially, it's a one-on-one conversation with employees to ask them some of those same questions. If someone's worked for you for 1 year or 5 years or however many years, things may have changed, right? So you just want to sit down and say, hey, um, just want to have a one-on-one. How you doing? What what do you think about when you drive to work in the morning? Are you excited? What are your short and long-term goals? Do you want to grow with this company? What motivates you, right? Because if you have a key employee that you are trying to grow within your team, what motivates them is going to be key, right? We all, like 10 years ago, I feel like we all thought we were motivated by money. And I'll tell you, that is absolutely not the case anymore. And so it's every employee is different. So you have to understand what motivates them and then also what demotivates them. And that's going to be key to the success of you and that person. I have a client who said in a training, I have this rock star employee. I didn't think that he was motivated by kind of accolades or he needed that personal recognition. I was giving him recognition in our executive meetings about how he was like developing, these new processes and procedures and giving him all these accolades to the management team. But little did I know, he was sitting at his desk disgruntled because all he wanted was an attaboy. And this person admitted to me, he's like, I had no idea. I almost lost my key employee because I didn't think he was motivated by, hey, great job, Joe. And little did he know I was giving him accolades to the executive team every week. So just understand those things. And you also have to make pathways to learn appropriate for the people that you are trying to grow. Some of us learn really well by reading. Some of us learn really well by presentations like this. Some of us need to be hands-on to learn or shadow. And so that's another question that you can ask, what's the best way for you to learn? And so once you get all this information back from employees, then you can help set them up for success. So keep your eyes open for key characteristics, right? So again, I'm going to switch my bullets around. Think outside the box when you're trying to identify people that can move up within your business, right? Think outside the box. It's been 15 years or something where I had an intern working in the company that I worked for. And I was in operations. She was an intern in HR and admin and like office like help. But I've told this story before because it's so meaningful, and I still keep up with her every once in a while. But I think she was 21 or something, and she was there part-time, and it was remarkable. My working relationship with her was remarkable because sometimes I had to get engaged with administrative or office events or office type things. And she was amazing at understanding the way that we communicated. And then she learned to be a step ahead of me. It was amazing, right? So think outside the box. Don't just look at the person that you think you've identified to move up or the person that is in the position that maybe should naturally move up. Look for other people also. When you find key characteristics, someone that is engaged, someone that's collaborative, that is a huge role. Can I work in different departments? and collaborate with different people, like wide and like in terms of the org chart high. Are they self-driven to find answers to get results? And are they high performing? Are they executing their job to do well, right? And then you look for someone with determination, integrity, ethics, and just general business acumen. But when you identify these key characteristics, sometimes you can really grow and engage and help them succeed, and then you succeed in different areas. All right, so once you've hired the right person or identified the employees that you have now who may have potential, it doesn't necessarily have to be a line in the stand that says, okay, take this person and pull them into a succession plan role, right? You can identify 5 people and create pathways for them, right? And give different people opportunities and see how they shine, right? You don't have to necessarily let people know you're setting people up, to it's not competitive. I'm not really a competitive manager by any means, but it's just options and choices to create pathways for different people, right? So you can identify people, and then little by little, you can give them additional responsibilities, right? Maybe it's a special project. That's pretty easy. Maybe it's even a cross-departmental initiative, right? Is there a process that crosses departments that is broken or that is very manual? Can I give someone an initiative, a project or an initiative to try to make this more efficient? Or can I inspire or empower someone to lead meetings that are cross-departmental, right? Because again, if you're working on succession plans, you really want to see if that person can bring people together or execute what you need them to execute. Cross training is huge, but also, watch the people that you're working with, watch the effort that they take to get it done on their own. You can create a pathway, but that doesn't mean they're going to take it. And what you want to see when you're trying to get someone into a succession plan is, are they self-driven? Even though you're creating a pathway, you don't need to be there pushing behind them to make sure they don't fall. They also need to be going, right? You need to be there, and we're going to get through that. We're going to get to that in a little bit about keeping them supportive, but they also need to show motivation and initiative to get there, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier. Provide pathways to training and education. There are higher education certification initiatives that are widely available. I took one 10 or 15 years ago, a team building effectiveness through Michigan State. It was online, it was virtual, it was fantastic. There are a lot of LinkedIn learning certifications, but just provide training and education for those people. Maybe it's even just Excel or Word, but provide it with them and challenge the people that you want to motivate with additional opportunities for training and education. And remember, this is a key role for managers and leaders, is providing those training opportunities for them. And then, if you're talking to someone that really has an opportunity, is showing these characteristics, you can talk to them about options. Just because they started out in accounting doesn't mean that they don't want to grow in HR or they don't want to grow in contract management. And so ask them at part of that stay interview, and then help them create different paths if they want to maybe diversify their experience and knowledge. So I just touched on this. When you create the pathway, you have to set them up for success, right? So give them expectations. Some of the things that I love to train on are effective communication, huge, setting expectations, and holding people accountable. And it's not hard. There are very easy ways to do this to be effective. But you want to give people clear expectations. And if you recall, that was in the engagement statistics that I showed you a few slides ago. So people want to know what's expected of them. And I also challenge you guys who maybe don't, or just coming to work every day and not really clear on expectations, ask your manager, like, am I meeting your expectations? Because it's not clear. Can you give me some insight on how, I maybe could meet your expectations? Or, just you can ask that upward too. So also set them up for success by including these succession opportunities in their goals. Whether you do monthly, quarterly, or annual goals, include these steps in their goals. Help them knock down hurdles, right? So make a pathway for them. If they're going to have software system access issues, figure it out beforehand and make it easy for them, or introduce them to the other people and the other departments that they might want to collaborate with. But, when you're creating that pathway, you want to set them up for success by knocking down hurdles. I truly believe people want to be held accountable, right? It motivates me. It motivates me to even hold myself accountable. And it's not easy. So just think about that. People want to be held accountable. Definitely tell people, amplify their strengths. That's a different way of leadership techniques now, is really praise strength. Like, too often when we sit down to give feedback, we focus on what's not going right. You can actually lift people up higher and motivate them and strengthen everything on their plate by praising pieces of what's on their plate, right? Also, you want to document what you're asking them to do, right? That's just clear communication. And then also communicate with them about what you're expecting them and to do and why. But also, this is key, is tell them how you want them to communicate with you, right? So if you give someone a special project, then you say, okay, tell them what you want them to do, but then say, okay, I know I'm very busy, but I want to make sure that how I want to be asked questions, right? If you run into an issue, if you have a question, I'd like for you to come see me first thing in the morning, before 9 o'clock, before things really get busy, and let's just talk about like an issue. Or maybe it's text me or email me, or let's set up a meeting, because the last thing you want to do is not have a path for them to communicate with you, and then be hesitant to communicate with you because you're too busy. So just make sure that they know how to communicate with you and stay true to what you say. If you set them up for success, document it, give them expectations, and they don't meet these goals, and then they come to you and say, I thought I was up for this promotion and they didn't get it, then what? They need to look in the mirror, right? So again, here's a little bit of my HR management. If you set someone up for success by giving them all the tools and training, communication, expectations, and they don't get it done, it's not on you anymore. They have to look in the mirror, and you can't feel guilty about not creating that pathway. Something else to consider is sometimes people, again, do want to transition into different departments. So just think about that. Consider that. If you are an ED or leading a department that manages several different divisions, think about potentially moving people around in different departments and rotating in different departments. They can shadow others, have them train other people or new employees, These are all kind of special type products. Maybe have them lead a meeting. Again, a collaborative project, get them out of their comfort zone, right? I really believe success happens when you get out of your comfort zone. And the more you try to get out of your comfort zone, the better you are at being successful in those tasks. So that's a challenge. And then I just want to tell you, I really believe that holding people back from growth will work against you and them. And it also may prevent organizational stability, continuity, and growth, right? So think about this. I just want to remind you, if you're a manager or leader, part of our job is to grow others, to share others, to develop others. So in terms of that, you need to make sure you're guiding, mentoring, and coaching, right? Be positive, be patient, be persistent. Guiding means showing them the way, be that tour guide, right? Show them the way, give them the tools and training. Mentor, be there as a source to answer questions and to give advice. And coaching is lead the conversation. You lead the conversation with questions to help them overcome the obstacles and help them foster their own decision making. All right, let's go back to communication. Again, set expectations, do not make promises, right? Because you don't know if someone's not really going to take the reins. They have to show you. Give steps, don't expect leaps, right? I like to think in terms of goals and goal management and those types of things. You want to break it out in easy steps until people get comfortable, until you get comfortable that they can execute steps, right? Because sometimes if you make that goal a leap, they're not going to get there because they need some guidance, right? Communicate often. Tell them how to communicate with you. I got ahead of myself there. Be approachable. That's huge. Let them be supportive by being approachable to answer questions. If they catch you at a bad moment and you don't have the time at that moment, just say, I'm so sorry, I'm right in the middle of something. Can I come see you in 2 hours later? In 2 hours, right? But make sure you do. Give effective and constructive feedback. We can't learn if we're not being honest. If people aren't being honest with us. So make sure that feedback is constructive and don't shy away from those difficult conversations. We all learn the most through difficult conversations, whether we have them with people or whether we don't. And praise small wins. Make sure that they know when they are meeting expectations. A lot of times we forget this, or we think that they know we're okay, but that's one of your biggest chances to win with people as you're growing them, is to give them a small attaboy or great job on that email. It's really a key motivator for people. Something else when you're working through succession planning with people is like involve them in decisions, right? Brainstorm with them, see how they think, right? So if you include them in discussions, that problems that come up, and then you're like, okay, help me brainstorm. How can we come to a solution? Or just ask them, do you have any suggestions? And see what they say, even if you know the answer, right? Even if you know what you're going to do, right? Take this opportunity to give the question to them to see how they think. And when you do, make it safe. Do not come back with like, that's not a good idea. Like, don't come back with like, that's stupid, or don't come back with a demeaning. Make it safe. Like, and even if you think it's ridiculous, ask them questions. Like, or maybe it's not in the budget, ask them the question instead of saying that's not in the budget. Say, do you think we have the budget for that? Like, ask them, right? Make it safe. Because if you respond in a way that doesn't empower them, or it is rude or something demeaning, they're not going to come back, right? They're not going to come back and allow you to coach them. You could also give them a low-level authority. Maybe it's like you can purchase things up to $500. Anything over that, come see me. And when they do come and ask for questions, tell them the why or why not, right? It's so important. People want to know the why or why not, right? They need to know how your mind thinks, and how you make decisions, so then they can use that knowledge to make decisions on their own too. Have them identify problems and propose solutions to you. And then don't set them up to fail, right? If you're worried, again, if you're worried that there's a huge failure point, walk them through steps instead of a leap. So say, hey, okay, what are the steps you're going to take to get there? And if they map out 5 steps, say, okay, why don't you go do 1 and 2, and then come back and talk to me and tell me how they go. And then we'll talk about what you're going to do for number 3, right? Don't let them go all the way through to number 5 if you know 3 is going to fail, right? So there's ways to approach that are very effective. And keep in mind, one size does not fit all. So we're talking, I know, to so many of our UPHS partners, we are in different roles, we are different organizations, we're funded in different ways. Some of us are in key positions that may just, be like a payroll type position. Some of us are in ED positions, some are in management positions. If you want to move up or retire or whatever your next step is, you need to think about, how am I going to do that? And can I set someone else up to move into this role? So you have to really understand your role in your organization. One size does not fit all. Again, we talked about it earlier. We all make decisions differently. We all learn differently. And so you have to really engage in a way that's going to motivate the person you're talking to. I also like to think as a team. From an organizational perspective, I was always looking for rock stars across the company to see if there were people that I could identify to move up in the organization. And honestly, I was even looking at my team and their skills to say, oh my gosh, this person would be such an asset in this role in another division, right? Don't hold people back, right? If it doesn't work, pivot, right? Don't set yourself up for failure either. Set yourself up for success. Pivot if you need to. So I want to go back to this question. He who fails to plan is planning to fail. Are you looking in the mirror? Are you planning to fail? I'm going to say your answer is no, right? Your answer is no. All you have to do is take the first step. Leadership is about your approach. It's how you approach people. It's how you approach decisions. It's how you approach your success and building someone up underneath you for a succession plan. And again, don't be too hard on yourself. The goal is progress, not perfection. And so think about what lessons you've learned and look forward and use them to enhance your next steps. Okay, I know we only have 5 minutes left, but I'd love to open it up for questions.
No one. I know we have some questions. Alrighty, well, seeing none, Krista, we would like to thank you for presenting to our membership today on the topic of succession planning. To all of our members that were in attendance this morning, we want to thank you all for being here with us this morning. With a few moments that we have left, I do want to share one thing with you, so I will share my screen really quickly, or I won't. Where are you?
Oh, I will stop sharing. Sorry.
Oh no, 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 you're fine. You're fine. I'm trying to pull up, which I think I can now, or not. All in all, I will just share it with you all verbally. On January 23rd, we will have our Introduction to Strategic Planning workshop. That will be with Alice Lee Stansberry, the founder and CEO of Stansberry Consulting. So please, please join us for that. That's January 23rd at 10 a.m. right back here on Zoom. So please join us again for an introduction to strategic planning. As we know, strategic planning is a huge, huge factor for a lot of our nonprofit agencies, if not all of them. And with the start of the new year, it is time to start getting in the mindset of reframing and reworking some of your strategic plans as we're looking to enter the new year as well as a new fiscal year for most of you. So please join us again, January 23rd, 10 a.m. on Zoom. If I see no questions here, we hope you all have a great rest of your week. Please stay safe tomorrow as there is supposed to be another round of severe weather here in the area. Please stay safe. But thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you on the 23rd.